Hello, now time for something a little different, as we have a mentalist, also known as a brain hacker, on the couch.
You are incredible. You're amazing.
Okay. Don't take your eyes off the road. Don't take your eyes off the road. What are you doing? Don't take your eyes off the road.
How did you do that?
Beauty. High five.
I don't get you. Let's have dinner. I'll figure it out.
Go for it. I'm ready. You've gone kind of silent there, Ellen, which worries me.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
You're one of the most positive people out there on our TVs and social media, etc. And you do this all around the world, spreading positivity and I guess positive mindset. So I'm delighted to have you on this podcast. So I wanted to kick off. You have a personal quest to make people laugh until their faces hurt, which I think is brilliant. I love that. But what about bad days? I guess counterintuitively to ask this question, does Keith Barry actually have bad days? And if so, what would be your advice for people to pick themselves up from a dip?
It's a great question, actually. It's not a question I get asked very much, because I think very often people look at somebody like myself and they just assume, like we mentioned earlier before we started, the conversation on camera, that, very often people think, I suppose, that I'm just kind of happy clapping all the time. That's not true at all. I actually absolutely definitely have bad days. I have down days. I think for me, though, I've just programmed myself that I have way more positive days than those bad days. And I think that's important. My whole ethos comes from mental programming, and that you can indeed shift your emotional mindset. You can shift your intellectual mindset if you come from a growth mindset at all times. But I absolutely have bad days. I have down days. I have days, where I just don't feel like getting out of bed sometimes, but they're very rare. For me, I am a predominantly positive person because I've programmed myself that way. And that is very different than happy clapping all the time, by the way. So I feel like it needs to come from a real genuine place of, just being content in life and being happy in life. But look, I'll give you an example. The other day, like my little fella, he's 9, wonderful kid, wouldn't eat his vegetables. And this is an ongoing problem, right? And here I am having this argument with a 9-year-old at a table about whether he's eating his vegetables or not. And of course, that's where I have to be the tough dad. But like that kind of dragged my day down a bit. And then later on, my daughter was just acting up a bit. She's 13. And then all of a sudden that affected my mindset, right? I was having a down day all of a sudden because I had to have interactions with my kids that I don't necessarily enjoy having, because look, I am the fun dad. I'm the dad that brings them swimming in the sea all year round, which might not be fun for a lot of people, but that's what we do. We go foraging, I bring them surfing, all that kind of crazy stuff and interesting fun stuff. But then on the flip side, I'm the strict dad as well. And I don't like being that. And then it kind of pulls me down. And then look, I have a book that I'm selling at the moment that you know about yourself, Brain Hacks. And then sometimes a TV show might not have you on, or a radio show might not have you on, and that can affect your day, But for me, it's always about, am I coming from the right place? Am I doing the right things? Am I taking the right actions? And if I'm on that course, of course, you'll deviate from that course. But if I'm on that course and consistently check myself, then I will have way more positive days than bad days. That doesn't mean other things don't affect me sometimes, but then you have to kind of wash those away, magnify the positive, and then shrink down the negative when those happen,
Great. No, thanks for that. So, I mean, you mentioned programming yourself, I guess. Is that a case of increasing your awareness and having that, as you say, checking yourself continuously and being aware of your state, I guess?
Yeah, I think emotional intelligence is very key right now, and being absolutely aware of where you're at all times and checking in with yourself, not just every few weeks, but checking in with yourself every couple of hours and go, okay, how do I feel today? Am I doing the right things today? Am I going to the gym? Am I eating healthily? And you don't need to become completely obsessive by this. It doesn't mean that I live a really regimented, strict life. I probably live I'm going to say the 80-20 life. Like 80% of the time, yeah, I go to the gym and I eat healthily and whatever. But then the other 20% of the time, I like to have fun. I'll have a couple of drinks at the weekend. I'll eat the chocolate. I'll eat the crisps. I'll have the ice cream. And it's all about just managing all of that. I think where people suffer with their mental health and so on, is when they go down a route that, they're doing a 50-50 or the opposite of 40-60. And for me, it's just about kind of managing that in my own life and making sure that I manage it kind of daily, if you like, and checking in with myself daily. And then sometimes I don't even do that myself. And sometimes you fall off that. I think very often, right, so-called experts in our industry, they seem like they're just positronic all the time and they have no issues, no problems. And we never see them fall, right? Or very rarely at least see them fall. But I kind of know the inside track on these people and myself. We all have problems. We all have issues. We all have bad days. And I think it's important to be open about that and honest about that. So I live from a place of integrity. If I can sit with my integrity at all times, then that makes me a very content and happy human being. Again, external forces will always try and manipulate your emotional intelligence. And what you have to do is learn how to, as I said, kind of magnify the positive is the way I put it, and shrink down the negative in all situations. Even when I was in a car accident, even when my grandfather was pretty much murdered in a botched robbery, I still managed to magnify the positive and shrink down the negative, even in those moments,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so important. But I love the fact that Keith Barry can be brought down by a kid not eating vegetables.
Off my head in, I'm going to tell you.
You're like the rest of us.
No. I got to be honest with you, right? I'm dealing with all kinds of mad business issues right now. None of them bother me. Like none of them bother me, right? I deal with all like big problems, small problems, everything. None of it. It bothers me more that he'll argue with me over eating his vegetables a year later. And even with all the techniques that I know with NLP and hypnosis and all the rest, I can't get my own kid to eat vegetables willingly. And so there you go. There's honesty 101 right there.
Oh, yeah. No, I appreciate that. Listen, Keith, you come across, you've been on the Ellen DeGeneres show, 7 times now? I've seen you on New Zealand TV. You're very much a global entertainer. But you have that likability factor. You have the confidence, I guess, to back yourself in terms of what you do, TED Talks, wherever else. Yeah. But you come across as a sort of normal guy that most of us would like to hang out with. So I guess going back to the sort of kid thing, and you're the father of 2 kids. I guess what would be your advice there in terms of confidence, particularly with a view to parenting and bringing up kids?
Well, I suppose it's such an open-ended funnel, isn't it? Confidence. And it's difficult to just, I suppose, zone in on the kids thing, but just as a broad stroke, I suppose. I wasn't always a confident person. That's the first thing. You're not born with confidence. Nobody's born with confidence. What happens is, like, over time, you start to gain confidence, and then you get your confidence knocked, right? You get your confidence knocked. Kids get their confidence knocked by either an adult or peers or, their friends sometimes can knock that. And I see it like almost like bricks and mortar. And the more that confidence gets chipped away and the more the bricks and mortar get chipped away, the more people can start to turn into this shell of what they once were. So for me, it's about putting tools and techniques in place to maintain that confidence. So, I remember years and years and years ago, like when I was 17 or 18, I was on a boat from Rosslare to Cherbourg doing kids magic. And I tell you, there and then, kids will let you know whether something is up your sleeve or where it is as a magician. I remember my confidence was terrible at the time. I remember I had the shakes, like literally had the shakes, which is not a good thing because, a comedian can always hold on to a microphone so you can't see them shaking, and a singer can move around. Whereas a magician at the time, I was just doing magic. If you shake, people will see it. So I remember at the time, I was like, I have to do something here. And I did this thing called, I call it now curl your toes to confidence, but I just scrunched my toes up in my shoes. And I didn't even know I was doing it. Scrunched them up really tight. And then I said to myself, these kids are my friends. These kids are my friends. So it was like an affirmation, right? I was just trying to, in my mind, to make a connection with these kids. And then I walked out with my toes curled. Now, what happened was I have a certain level of discomfort with my toes curled, but I then figured out afterwards that I was actually anchoring that affirmation subliminally by curling my toes. So it served a twofold purpose. One was a distraction mechanism from my hands shaking. And then secondarily, I was actually genuinely on a subconscious level anchoring that affirmation. And I do it now to this very day. So I discovered it by accident all those years ago. So one top tip for people just in general, that if you're nervous and you're about to get up, so public speaking is obviously the number one fear that people have. I would say curl your toes is the first thing you need to do, to an extent where it just gives you a mild level of discomfort, not pain, but mild level of discomfort. It will distract you from the moment that you're in, because your subconscious mind will know that you're in a level of discomfort. But then also, if you come up with some kind of affirmation, just even in the moment, right? And very often for me, if I'm going in front of 1,500 people, that affirmation will be, these are my best friends in the world. I love these people. These people love me. I'm going to get a standing out. That's the affirmation that I have. So come up with an affirmation for yourself. With kids, look, it's very personal for different people, but I will say this. I'll say this. The biggest problem in the world, as I see it, and we all have different views, and I respect everybody's views, I see the biggest problem is parents not spending enough time with their kids. So therefore, they're not confident with their kids. The kids aren't gaining confidence. So it's that like loop, that perpetual loop that, you know, they're actually not in, I suppose. So for me, I'm in a loop with my kids. Like I'm bouncing out of bed every morning and I'm saying to them, as cheesy as all as this might sound, I say to them, you know, NGU, never give up. I'm screaming it at them as they run out the door. When their friends call for them as they go to school, like I do a funny, weird dance or I'll do something mad and I'll go to all of them. Like there could be 5 kids there. I go, find someone sad today, make them happy. And all of that will build their confidence over time as people. And look, it might sound a bit quirky and a bit mad, but like they're the kind of things that I like to do. But I think the most important thing that adults, parents need to understand is, are you spending enough time with your kids, quality time with your kids? Because I'm telling you now, the majority of people that I know don't. And that's where I come from. I'm so busy right now, like I'm maxed out, like completely maxed out time-wise. But then I always check in. Am I spending enough time with the kids? And then, like, do I sit with them? Like, my kids appear pretty happy and pretty stable, but I still always check in with them. I always go, anything you need to tell me? Anything happening in school? You know, and I always ask them for that honesty, and I tell them that honesty. But I think, again, to loop back to it, you know, if you're confident with your kids, that means you're spending time with them. And a lot of people I see who have problems with their kids means that they're not spending that quality time with them. And when I say quality time, I mean quality time. Like, rule of our table is no technology at the dinner table. We've had that since they were born, so we get to talk to each other over dinner. It's a wonderful moment of our day. And except when you're trying to get them to eat their vegetables, of course, then it can become problematic. But no technology at the dinner table, and then doing crazy things, like interesting things, like, as I said, you know, I brought my daughter snorkeling recently, and just being outdoors with nature, I think, is the other thing. So, but all of those things will build confidence in children. I don't think people realize that. And then obviously sport is a great thing. Like my kids do loads of sports and so on. So just doing everything that I can to create stable human beings before they fly off into the world, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. I guess one of the positives of lockdown, if you like, is that it's forced us to reassess our lives, and indeed we've had more time to spend with our families. I guess the big challenge for us is, as we get sucked back into, you know, the way we used to be, whether we can still carve out enough time, enough parent time.
Well, this is really interesting what you just said, because I was actually the opposite of that. I didn't reassess anything. Like, I was just like, I'm really intrigued by these people reassessing things, because I think some people came from a genuine place with that, which I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
But then other people who are like seemingly reassessing their lives and saying, oh, you know, I'm just going to slow down. Listen, the second the world opens back up, they'll be back to the same behavior patterns. They'll be back out the door. They'll be back maxed out. They'll be back drinking every night of the week. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that reassessment being a permanent reassessment. For me, I'm reassessing myself always. So inside of a pandemic, outside of a pandemic. And that's what I think people need to do. I think they need to continuously reassess. So I do what I call a reorientation day a month. So it's not a full day. I used to do a full day before I had kids, but now I've only got time to take a half a day. I recommend a full day if you can do it. But that reorientation day is literally a notepad, a pen, and a quiet spot. And that quiet spot is generally away from the house. When it's in the summer, I'll do it outdoors. I'll go to a beach or something. During the winter, I'll literally find a nice spa somewhere and go down there for half a day, and literally just get deep into my thoughts and write those thoughts out. I don't think that reassessment is going to be sustainable. I think a lot of people are going to fall back into their patterns. Like, I heard a lot of like people in the celebrity world, which I guess I'm part of. I don't see myself as a celebrity, as I see myself just as a personality, I guess. But like ultimately, when I look at some of these so-called celebrities saying, oh my God, this is amazing, I get to spend all this time with my kids, whatever. Well, yeah, but you're putting it all on social media. So you're doing that for a different reason. You're not actually spending time with your kids. You just want us to think you're spending time with your kids. Do you know what I mean? And and it's a whole other thing. That's a whole other game, you see. And like just to loop back to it, with both kids and adults and confidence, I say this: we're all far too digitally distracted these days. Get off technology. If you want to gain confidence, get off technology. You know, sitting there scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, it's all fine. Like I do it, but I don't do it for hours a day. You know, I'll get up, I'll post, I might do a bit of research, comment on a couple of things, and that's it. It's off. I'm done. I'm finished with all that nonsense because it's just noise. But that noise has a profound ability on your brain, or detrimental effect sometimes on your brain, that can affect your confidence. People don't realize that, like, your confidence can be knocked by all the negative noise that you're hearing all the time. So for me, I choose not to listen to that, you know?
Yeah, I do exec coaching, and one of the things I'm always saying to clients is take yourself away without your phone, leave your phone at home. Apologies in advance if there's an emergency, but it's highly unlikely. And challenge yourself to be alone with your thoughts. And
absolutely,
no podcast, no anything, just as you say. So I love that piece of advice. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I do it myself, and everything that I say to people, I do myself. Like, I give lots of talks to different companies, like yourself, a lot of executive coaching, a lot of one-to-one coaching. But there's a lot of simple things that people can do. And sometimes when you say them to them, they're like, oh, that's very simple. I'm like, yeah, but are you going to do it? And are you going to do it consistently every single day? And are you going to maintain that for a full year? Like, imagine what a company would look like. So I ask this question of all companies that I work with. I say, okay, so we'll just say there's like 100 people on a call. So it could be Zoom or it could be in real life. And I'll say to them, all right, out of the 100 people right now, I want pure honesty. How many of you are right now at peak performance? How many of you are bursting through your goals, achieving every target that you set, and you're on a trajectory? How many of you? And out of 100, you'll get one. You'll kind of get one, right? Maybe two, either 1, 2, or none. That's it, right? There's no more than that. It's 0, 1, or 2. So then I say the obvious. I'm like, okay, so imagine if 100 of you turned up tomorrow at peak performance level. There's no reason that you can't do that. There is no reason. There's just strategies that you can take and become process driven and goal orientated, and then do it sustainably over time. And then you'll see the bottom line rise. Yeah, you'll have flaws and faults and falls and all the rest. But if you follow the process, it can't fail. I'm like, it just can't fail. And people are like, what? I'm like, it can't fail. Like, you don't understand. Yeah, do the simple things, then do the complex things, marry them together, put in the time, the energy, the effort, put the strategies together, and then you cannot fail. I have this formula that I follow. I get my clients to follow it. W plus MA times ATT equals GS. Because I'm a scientist, first and foremost. A lot of people don't know that about me. And I love formulas. So your why, once you know your why, once you know your exact purpose, and when you knuckle down into that, and you add in massive action, which is the MA. And when I say massive action, I mean massive action. And yeah, it's going to take some of your time and all the rest of it, and you're going to, take your energy and resources, money, and all the rest of it. But if you add in massive action, you multiply that by your attitude, you are guaranteed success. That's the GS. And some people will question that. I'm like, there's nothing to question. There's nothing to question there. I can back it up with all my different clients who've had the success once they've followed the formula. I can back it up myself. So look, there's a little that formula, I guess, that people can follow if they want to know more.
I think that's a great formula. Thanks. I can't fault it. I don't have enough science background to question that one, your mathematics, but no, that's fantastic. So, Keith, you're a mentalist, and I think, I'm Glaswegian. The term pure mental or pure mentalist definitely has different connotations where I come from in Glasgow. But you've got you mentioned earlier in our conversation that you have a book coming out, Brain Hacks, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
What can we expect from the book?
Well, it's a self-development and self-help book, really. And in the book, I've got brain hacks for confidence, positivity, success, resilience, calculated risk-taking, and the list goes on and on and on. And then at the back of the book as well, because I thought, look, I'm a brain hacker, right? That's what I do for a living. So I thought I'll teach a couple of top tips on how you can make it look like you can hack into other people's brains. So there's 5 tricks at the back of the book as well for people who kind of might enjoy to learn how to do this kind of stuff. But predominantly it is for business people. It's for everyday people to achieve anything that they want in life. So if you want to get over a fear, I go through how to eliminate fears. If you want to attain positivity and confidence, there's structures in there on that. So I designed the book in such a way, well, I suppose 2 different things that I put in there that are a little bit different than a lot of other people. One is, I made it for the layman, or wrote it for the layman. So in other words, I didn't make it too complicated. I could sit here and talk to you all day long about the amygdala and the reticular activating system, but that's no use for the everyday layperson. So it's written so that you can actually activate upon the points in the book and achieve sustainable change in your life. And then secondarily, I made it very personal. So in other words, there's a lot of examples, painful examples in some cases, from my own life on where I had to use these techniques and where I developed these techniques, where I discovered these techniques. And that was quite a painful experience for me to write. And I suppose the reason for that is in the hope that 1, 2, or 10 people might actually change their lives by reading the book. So look, I'm excited. It can be gotten on pre-order now on easons.com, also bookstation.ie. And then for any of the UK people over there in Glasgow, you can definitely get it on amazon.co.uk.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you sharing, going deep for that. I really look forward to reading it. You shared some of your positivity techniques, or your mental brain hacking techniques with Woody Harrison. Is that right? He's out there somewhere in the States playing mind tricks on people. Is that correct?
Yeah, he can actually genuinely hypnotize people now, and he can perform a lot of the brain hacking things that I do, because I worked with him on the Now You See Me movie franchise. So Now You See Me 1, Now You See Me 2. Where I was the chief mentalism and magic consultant. So I came up with all of the magic and mentalism for Now You See Me 1 and Now You See Me 2. A lot of people don't know I'm actually in Now You See Me 2 for half a second. So I was officially cameo part. I was officially Mr. Pigeon Pants in Now You See Me 2. So when you see this guy open up his pants and a pigeon flies out of his pants, I was Mr. Pigeon Pants. That's actually a true story. So you can pause it. If you pause it, you'll actually notice that it's me.
I might try and edit that in. That's brilliant. I'm sure your mates don't let you live that down, Mr. Pigeon Pants.
Well, yeah, and the crazy thing is I actually had a full cabin, like a huge big trailer, and the title, I have a photograph of it somewhere, was like Mr. Pigeon Pants, Keith Barry's. I gave me my own trailer for the day called Mr. Pigeon Pants.
That's when you know you've made it in life.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Here's a crazy thing for you, quick, before we go. I'm going to write something down on this. Yeah, I think, look at me.
Yep.
I think this will be for you. Actually, I'm going to write the number behind me. I'm going to write a number behind my back. I've kind of scribbled it, but you'll understand it. I'll get rid of the marker. So here's the idea. I've written down a number on this piece of paper. So if I was to ask you to name a number between, we'll just say 1 and 10, well, most people obviously go for 7. It's just a kind of a common thing, right? And you would have said 7. But here's the thing. We're going to go outside of commonality. We're going to go outside of the average. And I want you to name a number between, we'll just say 1 and 1,000. Any number that you want between 1 and 1,000. Name it out loud. Go ahead.
888.
Why did you go with 88? Why did you go with 888?
When I was a kid, for some reason, I picked 8 as my favorite number.
Well, that's interesting, because behind my back, I wrote down, Ewan will say 888.
Wow, that is impressive. I feel hacked now. I can add myself to the list. Keith, just to wrap up before I let you go, any favorite quotes? What's Keith Barry's favorite quote?
I came up with one years ago. I don't know how I came up with it. I was on stage one time, and I quite like it, actually. Well, I have a few that aren't mine. So, one I mentioned earlier is just never give up. I don't even know. I mean, it's not necessarily an original quote, but never give up. I just love it. And there was one that I found in college, which again, I've never Googled it, so I don't know who came up with it. The faster you fall behind, the more time you have to catch up. I love that. So the faster you fall behind, the more time you have to catch up. So it means that, if you do fall behind, what I take from that though is if you do fall behind, don't panic. Do you know what I mean? Like, always recognize that you can catch up, you will catch up, but you just got to go fast and go hard at it. One more that's not mine, and I'll give you my one, and this is a new one that I just read the other day, and I just remembered it off the top of my head, was by Edith Eger from The Choice, an amazing book called The Choice, and it was Escape the Concentration Camp of Your Own Mind. Now, that's quite deep because she was actually in Auschwitz and stuff, but I love that quote by her: escape the concentration camp of your own mind. You know, I love all the Einstein quotes as well that are out there. You know, imagination is more important than knowledge, I think he said. But ultimately, for me, then my own quote that I just came up with a couple of years ago was, "There's no magic sprinkle, there's no magic dust." Because people very often come to me, right? They think I can snap my fingers and cure them or heal them or whatever, and I go, "There's no magic sprinkle, there's no magic dust. The real magic is inside of you." So that's my quote, and I really believe that. I really believe that everybody can find a solution to the majority of their problems from internal. Of course, look, we're restrained by the confines of science. So if you're really, 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 really ill, then, you know, obviously you need medical intervention, right? But I'm talking about from a place of business, a place of being successful, being confident. All of those things can come from internal, you know?
I think that's so important. So often I see people, you know, when you look at it, it's their self-talk and the people that love them, the people who are trying to protect them the most, that actually talk them out of something. You know, I guess talk them out of almost being as successful as they want to be, however they define success.
Well, that's because they're fearful for them and they care for them, right? And they're fearful for them failing. But failure is a part of life. The failure is nothing to be frightened of. My God, I mean, I've had so many failures. Like right now, I'm failing in some things, but then other things I'm winning. And it's about managing that and then just regrouping, rethinking, refocusing. I think for me right now, I'm so maxed out on time. I have two things in my head. So this is like, I wasn't even going to share this today, but I'm just sharing it. One is, like, how can I grow my team to alleviate my time or give me more time back? Because time is the asset, right? I'm like, I need time back because I'm doing everything. I'm doing all my own social media, all my PR, my marketing, and I'm like, okay, I need to grow my team a bit more here just to alleviate some of that. And then the other thing is, okay, how do I get more of a passive income so that I'm not constantly stretched and maxed out and having to be in 10 different places at 10 different times. And I love what I do. And I don't mind the busyness of it all, but I don't think it's sustainable for the next 20 years. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, how can I get a passive income or a more passive income so that I'm making money when I'm not there? And I think a lot of people should be thinking like that too. You know, it's like, okay, time is the asset. How can I gain back more time to get free time to spend with my kids, spend with my family, go fishing, which is what I love to do. I haven't been fishing in ages, which is driving me nuts. So that's kind of where I'm at this moment in time, you know.
Well, Keith, you mentioned time being a premium, and you've certainly been very generous with your time this morning. So thanks for sharing your thoughts with me, but most importantly, thanks for sharing the thoughts with anyone that's taken the time to listen to the two of us blather away this morning. So thanks, I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, you know, you're fairly readily contactable these days.
Yeah, like before the pandemic, I wasn't really on LinkedIn too much, but we connected on LinkedIn, and it really is me on LinkedIn. I don't have an assistant looking after it. So yeah, if people want to get in contact, they can DM me on LinkedIn or through the website, which is just keithbarry.com. There's a lot of details about all of the different services that I offer up on my website, so people might want to check that out too, you know.
Well, listen, Keith, thanks so much for your time. Have a fantastic week and best of luck with the book launch.
Cheers. Thanks to you too. Cheers.
Take care. Cheers. Bye.